Okay, so it's 4:30, so I'll call the meeting to order at 4:30 on August 16th. And I'd like to acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nations. And a notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. So to start, I'll make a motion that to adopt the agenda, that the August 16th, 2021 Committee of the Whole agenda be adopted. Do I have a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. And I'll move that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held July 5th, 2021 be adopted. A seconder, Mayor Law, and all in favor? Okay. I forgot to ask if there's any emissions, sorry. And I believe we did have a public comment. Ms. Best had signed up.
Thank you, Chair Chalmers. I'm just going to go into the Q&A period right now. 1 second. My printer's going, so give me a second to mute here. We currently don't have any signups for the public comment and question period, so the comment period, but can I call once, please, if you are attending this meeting right now, there is a button at the bottom of the Zoom screen to actually push for Q&A and submit a question, or sorry, a request to make a comment. So I'll call it twice, and if there's no other comments requests, I'll call thrice. And just a reminder, we do have a moment at the end of the meeting to submit questions as well. So if you're not able to speak at this moment, we do have time at the end of the meeting. So as of right now, we do not have any.
Okay, thank you. And then I believe we have a delegation from Mr. Rodgers and Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Chair Chalmers. I'm just going to make them panelists so they can speak.
Hi, Duane.
Hi everyone. Should I start?
Okay, do we have Aaron as well here,
yep.
Mr. Rodgers?
I'm here as well.
Perfect. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers and Duane Bell, you have the floor.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'll start. There's some notes in your package there on what we're requesting, and I'm here to sort of do a quick little sort of overview of what we're asking, and then myself and Aaron are here to answer any questions. Anyways, I'll start off with that we are putting in a request for the council to consider us using part of Industrial Way there for a long-term lease to develop a fire training ground. In the package there, it definitely lines out sort of the area that we're looking at, and what we're hoping is that the council will sort of consider this and direct the staff to work with us on coming up with a plan. I won't get into all the particulars here, but obviously very proud member of the fire department, and we've always wanted to start a legacy project, so we have been saving up funds for some time now to have that, and we've decided to put our attention and focus on building a proper training ground. There's obviously lots of advantages and benefits, and we can get into that, but obviously like to speak, and I know you guys hear this a lot, is we're a fire department 6-7 months of the year for a town of 15 to 20,000, supported by what I would call a town of 2,500. And we've always wanted to sort of build a proper training ground to help sort of train and retain more members so we can get through the summer. And obviously this weekend and previous periods over the summer are definitely, part of that reason why I feel that we need, a fire department at a certain level here. And hopefully this training ground will sort of provide that yeah, so I'm not too sure if there's any questions from the council on this.
Thank you, Duane. Councillor Steer?
Great. Yeah, thank you. The package was pretty thorough in understanding, and of course fully support the application for long term, and it's well laid out in the package what you're asking for and what that you'll be funding and et cetera, et cetera. In terms of moving forward, two things. One, just time frames, what you guys are looking at, and then the second one is I just see this as a tremendous opportunity, not only for the Tofino Volunteer Fire Department, but for many of the regional players that we have, and to be able to work with it. And I don't know how that structurally works with being able to utilize that training facility down the road for everyone from Ahousaht to Ucluelet to outside and beyond. So I just think it's an incredible opportunity to provide that service regionally, and congratulations.
No, thank you, Tom, and definitely a good point. I meant, we look at this as a regional, advantage for everybody. All the emergency services and beyond, and definitely we'll be inviting our neighbors. And there is some intention that this could also go, sort of Vancouver Island or even BC wide. There is a lot of training that goes on with a lot of fire departments. So not only is there some savings that we can, take advantage of by training ourselves, but also we can invite other fire departments. And this is a system that is used by quite a few other fire departments on Vancouver Island, where we visit them. And obviously the training fees go to that department. So we look at it as a savings, but also maybe an avenue for additional revenue. So anyways, thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate your comments.
And maybe I could just jump in about the timing question, Councillor Steer. I think for me, the one thing, if I have anything to underscore today, and sorry, I'm not here as manager of community sustainability, nor as Lieutenant Rodgers from the fire department. I'm here as Secretary Rodgers from the Tofino Fire Society. And I think that for me, the critical aspect of this is timing. This is not something that can go on year 3 of a 5-year financial plan. This is something that needs to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. We're going to have a significant amount of development happening on Industrial Way in the next year. And that will limit the work that we do with the larger apparatus for pumps and pumping, leaving us, the impound yard when we can use it. And so these type of these projects, they take a number of years and definitely numbers of months to complete. And so I just want, if I have anything to say today, it's just that part of the reason we're coming here with the no funding or the funding this completely from ourselves rather than asking for partnerships or looking for taxpayer dollars. Just that this has to get done, and I think that's the piece that I just want to underline. Is this timing is really, really important with this one. It's going to take us a number of months to get through a subdivision and a rezoning and engineering drawings and the rest of it.
And Councillor Chalmers, if I could just a quick follow-up related to that, thank you. So following that, Aaron, is there anything that council that we can help in the expediting this, or is the ball rolling and this will come to council whenever it comes? But if there is anything, please obviously do not hesitate to bring that forward.
Maybe I could ask Mr. McPherson if he could add to that about timing and staff, because it gets a bit awkward for me as a secretary.
Yeah.
Aaron and I have already had words about this today. Actually, really, pleasant words. I just want to. I think all of council recognizes the great work and the great value that we get from having a volunteer fire department, and I actually feel a little bit sheepish that they're putting forward their own resources. So the fire department, we pay a stipend for people turning up, and they don't keep that as individuals. They collect that and try and do more community good with it. And so I don't feel great that they're coming forward and saying, well, we'll take that money and we'll improve the opportunity to improve the service that we provide for the community. So after this evening, I want to have a conversation with the Fire Department Association, sorry, I'm getting the name incorrect, about exactly what's needed and start establishing some timelines and see if we can, the district can find some money to assist with this as well. So We understand the need, we support the need, and I want to look for a way to work as quickly as possible with the fire department.
So, Mr. McPherson, would the best way to move forward after we've spoken from everybody is really here is to make sure that there's a support from council and then maybe direct staff to come back to a council meeting with a report or with program?
That would be just fine, yes.
Okay. Mayor Law, sorry, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to throw my 2 bits in. I fully support this excellent proactive initiative, and I'd like to see it expedited, and I concur with Mr. McPherson.
Thank you. And Councillor Thick?
Yeah, I also appreciate very much the spirit of volunteerism, and not only as you said in your presentation, Duane, just that you are actually willing to give the money you've raised back into this. And I think that it sets a very high bar for other committees and commissions in Tofino, and raises really just the whole spirit of volunteerism in our community. So I just want to say to you and all of the society and those who work with you and together, I just really appreciate what you do, because I know you have to drop everything and go sometimes, and that's not what your plan was on that particular evening or day. So thank you. I just had a question for Mr. Rodgers, and that was that the zoning amendment goes from A4 to P1. So can you just explain? I think I know what P1, what is A4? And my other question related to zoning was that land ever set aside for something else, or is there anything that we might need to consider as we look at the zoning amendment? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thick. I'm not aware of any strings attached to that land. I haven't actually done the work of pulling the title or reviewing that, just because we haven't owned it yet. It's part of the law, like it's actually a district lot, that one we're talking about, so it's quite large, and starts basically end of Industrial Way and goes towards the ocean. It's A4, which is basically for undeveloped forest lands and wildlands. So it's kind of that really, really big, like it's our largest land zoning. I believe it's 10 acres or 20, it's 10 acres in size for the minimum lot size. And so I don't know that there's been any plans about that. I know that the manager or the director of engineering and public works may be utilizing some of that area as well for the wastewater treatment plant, and that is an open discussion and something he and I have discussed. But other than it being held for anything else, I don't believe so. And then P1 is basically our institutional zoning, so it allows us for civic uses for things like fire halls or municipal offices, and so it would be sort of zoning it for a civic use rather than something else like a commercial use.
Great, thanks very much. Yes, I am very supportive of what the initiative is, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thick. And Councillor McMaster?
Yeah, thanks. I'm fully supportive of this. Just a general question, having been to a few fire training grounds around the world, who's going to design this? Are we going to do it ourselves, or are we going to bring in some expert from outside?
We're working with Jay Anderson out of Nanaimo right now, just on our initial planning for surveying and subdivision, and then for the servicing. And then as part of the budget, I think it's phase 4 or 5. That's when we talk about construction layout. And I think the key there for us I'm not sure what they're, if it's us ourselves, we might just work with somebody like that. But the idea would be to design it from the back to the front and make sure that if we're something where we wanted a satellite fire hall in 5 years, that we left space for it, and make sure that it's done, by someone who knows what they're doing. I don't know that there's anybody at the district nor on the fire department that could undertake that right now. So I would imagine it'll be a consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody want to make a motion, or I can move from the chair, I guess, that to direct staff to report back at a regular council meeting? Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor McMaster. All in, any questions or comment? Okay, all in favor?
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. That motion is moved. Thank you very much, Duane and Aaron.
And sorry, Councillor Steer, I called you Tom. You guys are great. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the correspondence section. We have the first one is from Jay Gillie regarding Chesterman's Beach Foreshore encroachment. Were there any comments on this? We did get a follow-up letter today in response.
Through the chair, I just wanted to let council know that we did actually have a member of the public present for the comment period. It was Mr. Charles McDiarmid, who has requested to have 2 minutes to comment on the agenda items. So if council will allow that now, it seems appropriate at the time of the agenda. So I thought I would ask.
Does anybody have any? Councillor Law, did you have a?
Just want to comment that we'll have time to ask questions of Mr. McDiarmid.
If council so chooses, yes, typically when we have a member of the public present at a council meeting, it's just for that 2 minutes. But should council choose to waive that rule in their bylaw at this period of time for this subject matter, that's absolutely okay.
Thank you. Do we need a motion to allow Charles to speak now, or you're just saying within this
2 minute period?
Okay. Are there any objections to this? Okay.
No objections, but I would just like to ask if we can ask Charles a question at the end or two. I think that might need a motion.
Well, why don't we wait until the 2 minutes are up and then we can go there. He might answer it in his 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move Mr. McDiarmid to a speaking role at the moment. So hang on 1 second here. Okay, Mr. McDiarmid, you should be a panelist now. So you have 2 minutes of the floor of council and when you begin speaking.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Charles. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'll be brief. I appreciate the opportunity. I did try and reach out to Jack Gillie directly, both by email and phone call, but I have not heard from him and invited him to, walk through with me the concerns he had, but so far I have not heard. I just want to say that that really this is something that has gone on that we've done for a number of years. We certainly encourage the public to use this space, and I know that that has always been my intention. I will say that this year has been a little challenging staffing wise and making sure people are properly trained. So we're making sure that all staff are fully aware that the beach and the entire area is open to the public, and we encourage people to use the space, to use this crab cookout space as it's laid out, and we have, to my knowledge, never turned anyone away from the space intentionally. There may be staff that weren't trained to know and to explain that the entire beach, including that area, is open to the public. We have put umbrellas in that space so that if there was a rain event, we could still accommodate people in the area, because in the spring when this was all decided, we weren't sure we would have we knew we wouldn't have sufficient space indoors to accommodate everyone, so wanted to make it somewhat available even in some inclement weather. And I'm open to questions, of course, and happy to clarify anything beyond what I have put in writing your way.
Thank you, Charles. Mayor Law, did that answer any of your questions, or would you still make a motion to allow questions?
Yeah, no, I would like to ask Charles some questions about his comments, just for clarity.
Sure. So is there a seconder? I guess that's kind of a motion. Councillor Challenger, all in favor?
I'm in favor.
All opposed? Councillor Thick, are you? You're muted, but just
Yeah.
want to make sure you're not opposed.
Yeah, I would like to continue with the conversation. We have something on the agenda, so I would say that, yeah, I don't really need to ask questions, I think. So I would be opposed. Thank you.
Okay, so one opposed. Motion is carried. Councillor Mayor Law, please. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Mr. McDiarmid, for entertaining my questions here. I just noticed in your letter here, it said that your staff welcome any and all beachgoers at all other times, it appears, besides the crab cookout. And I just wanted you just to comment on that.
Sure.
Is that the case, or are people are allowed in there during the crab cookout?
People are allowed in there in the crab cookout. We have, if people ask what's happening, we just explain what's going on, but we have never, and it's not my intention that we would remove anyone. That would never be, has never been the case, and would never be the intention. Some people might come by and ask what's occurring. We usually just explain what is happening, and really that's it. But if people are sitting in there even while we're setting up or conducting the crab cookout, they are welcome to stay.
Perfect. And a couple more follow-up questions, Ms. McDermott. Is this is a paid event for the guests? Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, there is a charge for the event.
And what else is served or provided to the guests at the crab cookout?
Well, certainly not alcoholic beverages, but it's the crab, it's dessert, it's non-alcoholic beverages, and that's really it.
Perfect. And just one other question. Have you in the past or recently approached the Ministry of Forests for a adventure tourism lease or anything like that, or permit through their policies?
No, we have not. We've been, this has been an ongoing event for roughly 15 years, and we have not approached them for a lease.
That's it. Thank you very much. Just for clarity.
Any other questions?
That's all the questions I have.
Oh, you're muted.
Yep, I realized that. Sorry. Thank you for your time, Charles. Are there any comments on the letter? Councillor McMaster?
Yeah, I've read both letters, and I really thought we dealt with this issue when I first got on council almost 11 years ago, when someone complained about the this crab feast happening, and I thought staff had dealt with it. I've always thought that the beach wasn't supposed to be used for commercial activities, and that's one of the reasons why the signage that Long Beach Lodge was putting up at Cox Bay was disallowed. More recently, when we were discussing beach fires, and we had one or two letters from property owners wanting to put their own fire pit on the beach and promising to clear up around there, we said no. It's, you know, the beach is for everybody. It's not just for somebody that lives by the beach. So I'm really concerned if we allow this, we're setting a precedent, and I wouldn't be surprised if every beachfront owner wants to do something on the beach of a commercial nature, and every other restaurant owner or bar owner. So I'm concerned that the hurricane called business is about to descend on the trailer town of Tofino, and I think we need to nip it in the bud and stop it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Councillor Thick?
I think just to follow up about that, the sign issue that we had at Long Beach Lodge, I do recall that, and that was quite a was quite an issue at the time. And I also think about the fact that the foreshore and the beach is in the public domain, and as council, I feel it's in our best interests and in our power to protect that public access. So I would not be in favor of having this commercial activity continue. And I think that it does open the door. I remember when we spoke about food trucks, and the restaurants had a huge outcry about food trucks and barbecues on the main street for hot dogs and things, because they felt they were paying commercial taxes, and they were their time and energy that was given into this town was being usurped or potentially usurped. So I see this in the same light, and I think that there isn't. This is just could be a dangerous precedent, in my opinion. And also, I think that if someone owns property on the beach and they want to do something with it of a commercial nature, then why not apply for a development permit and have that activity sanctioned on their land, as it should be. And so I would not be in favor of continuing or allowing this to continue without a permit. And so that's how I feel. Thank you.
Councillor Steer.
Thank you, Councillor Chalmers. I wonder if I see that Chief Baker is on. I wonder if Chief Baker could comment about the rules and regulations surrounding that type of activity, and if alluding to Councillor McMaster, I know Brent Chief Baker may not have been around then, but if he could comment around it having been historically dealt with. So I don't know if he has any information regarding that. And I just noted that Councillor Anderson has a little hand up.
Thank you, Councillor Steer. I'm not familiar with the historical comments that Councillor McMaster was making reference to. I certainly will look into that. We have taken the opportunity to check to see if there has been any permit issued by the province, which of course there hasn't, and Mr. McDiarmid did speak to that as well too. I definitely am aware that it has been going on for quite a number of years, but I think what the big difference is this year is the visibility of it. So previous years, there wasn't the umbrellas to draw the attention, and it very much all blended in with the beach landscape. And I think the big difference this year is that it does stand out with about, when I was there the other day, the overall area that's being utilized here is 70 feet long and about 50 feet wide. So it's quite substantial. There are 10 very large outdoor umbrellas that are fixed into the ground, and they're royal blue or bright blue. So they do stand out quite a bit. So it does make it seem as though it is a business on the beach. I do understand that people can move in and about, and I've chatted with some of the staff and they were quite open about that. We don't currently have any other businesses operating on the beach. We have had a few people recently apply to have some picnic type businesses where they would be setting up temporarily on the beach, but we don't have anything that appears as though it's permanent or seasonally permanent, I'll say that. So that I think is where the big difference is here. I will absolutely look into the history of it. Just haven't quite had an opportunity yet at this time, but certainly will do so.
Thank you. And Councillor Anderson, and then Councillor Challenger.
Hi, my apologies to any participants that might be listening and watching today. My camera is not functioning at the moment. Yeah, so I'd echo the concerns that brought forward by council, and I'd like to hear back from staff about beach encroachments in general, despite the fact that the adjacent property owner might be welcoming to all members of the public. I don't think that the public would get the impression from the setup there that it's a public space to enter into. It's definitely a defined area, and it is not. I wouldn't say that I would go there thinking that I was welcome there. It's certainly for all kinds of activities on the beach. We have an events permit process that can happen, and those events are set up and then taken down when they're over. And my concern is some of the sort of permanence of the structures that are in place there, and that really, if this was allowed, I think any property owner would get the impression that they could encroach onto or somehow cordon off part of the beach for their own use. And I don't think that's what we want to encourage. So I'd like to find a way that perhaps through the events program with less permanent structures, this might be able to continue. But I'd like to hear back from staff about our ability to enforce in our jurisdiction and all that sort of stuff. So that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. And Councillor Anderson, if you'd like to lower your hand so that if you have another question, we'll notice. And then Councillor Challenger, please.
Thank you. And yes, I've also read both the letters from Jack Gillie and Charles McDiarmid. And thanks for speaking and making some clarifications, Charles. And as Manager of Protective Services, Mr. Baker stated, I think that, again, what's most different for me is the visual aspect of it this year, and that it is more noticeable and does seem, appears to be more of an exclusive space than it has in the past. And so that does make a difference to me in how I feel about it. I would like to hear just more from staff about what is allowed on the beach, and I wonder what the differences are from a surf school operating business on the beach or other businesses that do use the beach for commercial purposes, and why is one allowed where another isn't. If it was just more of a casual space that didn't have the ropes around it, would it be that different than perhaps having takeout from their restaurant and bringing it to the beach to enjoy? And I think there's a lot of kind of gray areas here. So it'd be great to just hear a little more clarification about that in the future. Thanks.
Sorry, I'll just let Mr. Baker speak, and then I have a comment, and then Councillor Mayor Law, sorry.
I'm happy to bring back some more details on some of the differences there. I am fairly certain this year we received an email notification just a couple of months ago that as of 2021, surf schools would be required to have a specific permit for operating on the beaches as well from the province, as it was no longer included under previous existing uses that were allowable. So that was one change. So I think it would be a similar process for any other business that wanted to do that, especially on a regular basis, that there would have to be that permitting. But I will get the research done and come back with some more details.
Thank you. And then my thoughts are along similar lines, that it does seem a little less welcoming this year than it has in the past. It's never really faced me before as something where I felt was really private. I'm reticent to send staff into a whole report and a lot of time and money to look into something that potentially could just be working with the Wickaninnish to, maybe it's as simple as removing a few structures to make it less private. So my thoughts were sort of directing, at a lower level, and then if it needs to come back to look at more of a report. So I was wondering what council's thoughts were on that. And Mayor Law.
That's a great segue, Councillor Chalmers. Just to let you know, to all staff or councillors, that I have been looking into this, and I've met with staff, and noting staff is very busy, and that I already have a bit of knowledge about this. I'm putting together a letter for council, just an overview of some of the legislation, who has authority where, and what process Mr. McDiarmid or the Wickaninnish would need to go through to have a business use of Foreshore for that section. So, and surf schools were noted in there as well. So just to let you know that I'm going to reach out myself to the Ministry of Forests and discuss this, and I'll get back to you all with a letter. That's okay.
Thank you. So I would have a question either for Ms. Best or Mr. McPherson, in that, I mean, we always hesitate to make decisions at the correspondence. Would it be good to leave it at this, or do we need to give any direction?
I don't think any direction is required for staff at this point. I think that this has been flagged as an issue by the original letter writer. I know Chief Baker has had conversations with the Wickaninnish Inn, and we can provide some clarity as to what the regulations are. So we're not looking at any kind of immediate enforcement action, but as we always do, starting with education, here's what would be required, and then giving the landowner some options as to how they might move forward. It's not lost on staff here that we're hearing, I think, around the virtual council table, that there isn't a lot of support for any kind of commercial intrusion into Tofino's beaches. And I think that Wickaninnish Inn has been able to hear that as well. So they have the opportunity to go away and kind of consider that. So we'll be taking it from here as staff, and if we do feel a need to come back to council for any further instruction, we can do so.
Thank you. Are there any last comments before we move on to the next item? Okay, so item 6.2, there is correspondence from the Tofino Ratepayers Association regarding a summary of recent meetings and concerns. And this was an email that we were CC'd on their newsletter. Is there any comments on this or questions? Mayor Law.
Yeah, there's just a couple comments for clarity. And one is, it was noted in the letter, there was letter writers had issue with property tax exemptions for affordable housing. And this has been conveyed several times to the public and to the ratepayers, that as long as the property is wholly owned by the district, either through directly or through the THC, then there's a statutory exemption for property tax. But as soon as that property is leased out to a third party such as Catalyst, then property tax will apply. And as well, there is no, so far there's no exemptions discussed or offered for sale of duplex lots or any other lots through the THC, past or future. So I just wanted to make that clear for the letter writers. Also, a little note on the MRDT, that extra use of the MRDT for wastewater treatment plant is really a conversation that requires collaboration and cooperation between the community. That's through us as a council, through the DOT, through the province, and the fixed roof accommodation providers, or at least a majority of the fixed roof accommodation providers having a majority of rooms. And that really is a discussion, a three-way discussion, and requires careful communication and collaboration and cooperation. And that is our goal. That's it for me for comments on that letter.
Thank you, Mayor Law. Anybody else? Councillor Steer.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Chalmers. Yeah, the item number 1, the regional bus service, which is an ACRD service that's been enacted. Just maybe some clarification for that as well. At this point in time, there is no motion per se. What there has been requested of staff at the ACRD is to look at two things. One, the financial implications of the removal of a particular portion of a service area for that service. And the second part of the information, which we've received some, is what the process for removing a portion of a service area to move forward. So we're awaiting the financial portion of that information. But just as a follow-up on that as well, there has been expressed from the West Coast Committee that there's not a lot of support for the removal of that service portion of that service area. from the overall transit funding. So there's no motion before the ACRD board at this time, other than a request for information around those financial implications and the removal of a service area, a portion of a service area from a service.
Thank you, Councillor Steer. And I believe Councillor Thick, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. And to Mayor Law and maybe Councillor Steer as well. Do you have any idea when we're going to have an opportunity to discuss the bus thing a little bit further? Thank you.
So there has been so this initially, I'm sure you're aware of the transit was the first discussions around it started in 2017, where an initial study was brought forward. So this has been going on for about 4 years. The service, I will give you an update in terms of the COVID has slowed things, but we're expecting that service to be implemented in the spring of 2022. Is the projected time frame with the delays of COVID coming forward. I don't know if there will be an opportunity for the District of Tofino necessarily, although at any time that the district or anybody wants, they can certainly request that information from the ACRD. It is on the website. Just Google West Coast Transit Service, and it lays it out very clearly, timeframes, everything that has happened up to this point, including the establishment of the bylaw in 2019 for this service to be provided.
Thank you. Anything else before we move on? Okay, and then I believe item 6.3 we addressed with 6.1, unless there's any follow-up comments regarding Mr. McDiarmid's response letter. Okay, and then we'll move on to presentations and reports. I believe we have a presentation from Ms. Best regarding council parental leave policies.
Good evening, Council. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay. Looks like everything's in order. Good evening, Council. My name is Nikki Best. As you know, I'm Manager of Corporate Services Department. I'm here today to...
Sorry, Nikki, can I interrupt for a moment?
Yes.
We can see all your notes and stuff. Can you make
Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you for that. What's the... Let me get out of here. Oh, I know what's happened. New share. Okay, is that appropriate?
Oops. Yes, that's better.
Thank you. Okay, so to begin, we're here today for the council parental leave policy. And jumping right in, the purpose of this is to put an action behind the council resolution number 205-21 that staff be directed to bring forward and draft a council maternity / parental leave policy for council's consideration. So just for clarity purposes, I don't need a council recommendation at the end of this meeting, this presentation. I'm here to gauge some preferences and sentiments on the proposed policy and possibly have a discussion with council on how they feel about certain proposal items. And based on that, I will return to council on August 24th with a fully drafted policy. So I'm going to present some of the elements of this policy today and we can discuss. Moving forward, so basically some history is with the community charter, which as we all know gives us the powers of local governments to enact bylaws and regulations. In section 125, if council members are absent for a period of 60 consecutive days or 4 consecutive regularly scheduled council meetings, council members are usually disqualified from holding office. So it does not actually speak to a leave of council for maternity leave. And so this whole policy is actually in place so we can actually introduce some kind of way for a parental leave policy to exist for council members so they don't become disqualified from their chair. So considerations for policy development, council members first, as we know, are elected roles. They're not employees of the district. So elected officials don't necessarily fall under our district employment policies, collective agreements, or Employment Standards Act in the same way. So we do have to have a special consideration about when we change a policy for parental leave for an elected member of council. And council member terms are for 4 years in length. So unlike employment, there is a set term length. So we know that when council members run for office, unless there's a by-election, which we've had 2 in the last council term, everyone is under the understanding it's a 4-year commitment when they run for council, which is a long period of time for people in the public to commit, not knowing their future family planning. So this policy addresses that people who may or may not run for council may not know what they're doing in 4 years of time. And just a little piece of history is that less than 5 local governments in BC have a council parental leave policy. So if council were to enact one this month, we will be number 5 in BC. So considerations for Tofino's policy. The 4 things that we really need to consider today is how long a leave period should be for a member of council, what the remuneration should be for council members who are on a paternity leave, and also benefits. Should benefits be continued throughout the whole leave period, and whether council members should be participating in council business. That means council meetings, committees, appointments, or if they're acting mayor. So to do a little research, the other 4 municipalities that have this in place, the first one was Whistler in May 6, 2014. Their leave period in their policy is up to 6 months. You may participate in council business and your appointments may be reassigned until you return. So some council members may choose to keep their committee appointments and some may choose to just have them reassigned. And they actually do 100% paid leave and remuneration and 100% benefits. And as you'll notice, all 4 municipalities that have enacted this policy or policy of this type have actually proposed 100% or 90% paid leave. So anyone going on paternal or maternal parental leave as an elected official in BC from these policies have not gone on what we would call EI or any kind of leave from the federal government. So with Squamish, June 4th, 2019, again, up to 6 months. That's pretty much the same as Whistler. We've then moved to Saanich, and Saanich has up to 17 consecutive weeks, and they may attend council or committee meetings, but appointments may be reassigned again. And the only difference from the top 3 is Mission. And they did theirs most recently in June 7th, 2021, and all of their appointments are reassigned. So that means if you sit on a committee, if you are acting mayor, your role there is going to be reassigned to another council member. So that's the 4 cases that we have to look at. So that brings us to, should we follow suit or and with the status quo of what other municipalities are doing, or whether or not Tofino should do something different. So I do have some recommendations today. First is the leave period and participation. I do believe I'm proposing the option to choose leave period on a per week consecutive time period, not in set up to 6 months. So not to be broken up over a period of time, but up to 6 months consecutive is something I would recommend. Also, we could have the option here to be called back or requested for special meetings of council as needed. So for example, if there was a really hard decision that was before council, and because councils are set up to be an odd number of voters, if we had one council member always on leave, then we may have a hung vote. We may have a tie vote that we could not pass. So we could hold a special meeting of council to ensure decisions and business of the council can continue. And that might be just a special notation in the policy saying they could be called back for a special meeting with notice. And then also designated coverage for alternates and committees appointments, which is currently what we already have. So we already have an alternate for each committee. So if a council member is not going to be able to attend, we already know who should be filling in their stead. As for remuneration and benefits, I think what I've seen from the other municipalities is fair. Council elected official roles are part-time. I know that we've had a lot of meetings over the last few months, but technically speaking, they are part-time. So if council members do feel today that maternity or paternity leave is appropriate to allow for 100% remuneration, that would be something that wouldn't change any business for us here. Payroll would stay the same, and as well as health benefits, dental benefits to be provided throughout the duration of the term. And then, of course, with this type of policy, we want to use inclusive language. So we would draft this policy to be silent on gender identities and parent/guardianship relationships, birthing or adoption or guardianships. And then, like most policies, we would put in a little clause saying that the policy should be reviewed by council in 2022, 2023. And so the next steps after this presentation is to gauge the interest and preferences for the policy that I've presented. And then I'll prepare that full policy for the August 24th council meeting. And once that's done, we vote that in and we can begin to accept leave applications beginning in August 2021. And that's just about it today. So I will stop sharing my screen unless you would like me to return to a screen, but I'm happy to answer questions and have a discussion with council on what they think.
Thank you, Ms. Best. Councillor Steer.
Thank you, Ms. Best. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of your recommendations in terms of the full benefits, full remuneration, the 6-month consecutive time frame. On the appointments, as you pointed out, we do have alternates. The only one I would just have a question about is on acting mayor. How would that reappointment or would a reappointment be necessary for the acting mayor position?
Thank you, Councillor Steer. Yes, I would recommend that we reappoint acting mayor duties. That's again for chairing a committee of the whole like this evening, but it could also be for media requests and calls. So we really wouldn't want anyone on leave to be responsible for those things if they didn't feel comfortable.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Anderson.
Hi, I'm in support of the general trend and the look at the other municipalities. They are very, very similar. So I would support moving in that direction. The one question I did have was I'm wondering how it compares to the CUPE maternity or parental leave rules or guidelines. Is this better? Is it worse? Is it about the same in general terms?
I'm going to defer that to CA Bob McPherson because he has the most CUPE staff under him. I only have one staff member who is under the CUPE collective agreement. So he may have a lot more experience to answer this question for you.
Yeah, so I don't recall specifically what's in our collective agreement, but it's a matter of days, not months of paid leave that the district provides for its employees. Those employees are, however, eligible to apply for leave benefits through EI for parental purposes. So a bit of I think a distinction there where the council role is not even paid as though it's part-time. So that's without pulling the collective agreement out. I think it's 5 or perhaps 10 days that our employees are eligible for parental leave paid by the district, and then as federal law now allows 2 years taking leave.
Thank you. Ms. Atiana?
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that. Sorry, I had trouble getting my camera on. Thank you for letting me comment. I apologize, Bob, I don't want to contradict what you said, but the parental leave is available up to 18 months, 12 to 18 months of the decision on who will go on leave. I don't know if we're making a distinction between maternity or what type of leave we're making the distinction between, but if someone does go on leave after having their child, they're allowed to go for 12 to 18 months. And then they do have to apply through the EI program. So there's no paid leave by the district. We just are required to offer that time off.
Thank you. And Councillor Anderson, did you have another follow-up question?
No, that's good enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councillor Challenger and then Councillor Thick.
Thank you, and thanks, Ms. Best, for the presentation. As someone who will likely be applying for this once it comes, once it's moves through, I just wanted to comment that in the council meeting, when it comes up for a vote, I will make sure that I'm clear whether or not I should be exempt from that in the discussion. But currently, as someone who falls into the position of having been elected to council and then having the surprise of becoming a parent during term, it was a surprise to see that it wasn't something that most municipalities in British Columbia had in place. So I feel that that is a pretty huge barrier for people who are in the range of starting a family. And so I feel proud to be able to be part of a council who will put this forward as a municipality in the province, and appreciate the support. And so thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Thick?
Yeah, great. I do too. Thank you, Councillor Challenger. And I just wasn't clear, the slide maternity, paternity, could we just, is it possible, could we return to the slide, or could you just explain that once again, Nikki?
Thank you, Councillor Thick. We will be using the language of parental leave and not something specific to gender. So if that's approachable for council, that's what we'd move with. We're not going to distinguish between parental and birthing and whether you have physically given birth or not, or adopted. So we're just going to keep very silent. So all of our language for this policy is inclusive. So the main use, if I said parental, but if I said, sorry, maternity or paternity, I really did mean parental, and that's the language that we're going to be moving forward with.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. And yes, I do support the direction that you've outlined in your presentation. So thank you for your research in that.
Thank you. And I'm also, sorry, Councillor, I'll just quickly say I'm in support as well. My only question was about the acting mayor, which I agree that that one should be, somebody, Councillor Law, Mayor Law.
Just signaling my support, and all my questions have been answered. Thank you, Ms. Best.
Great. I believe, do you have everything you need then today?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and we have no unfinished business. Is there anybody signed up for the question period?
It looked like Councillor Anderson might have had his hand
No,
up.
he didn't take his hand down.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Chalmers. There are no signups for the public question and answer period.
Okay, in that case, I will make a motion to adjourn. Seconded by Mayor Law. All in favor?
I'm in favor.
All right, well, it's nice to see everybody tonight. Well, almost everybody.
Good night.